very often when there's conflict, you know, there are other things which are missing for often both people, like respect. You're not respecting me. Yeah, well, you're not respecting me. Or care, you know, like you don't care about what I think, or my needs don't matter to you. Yeah, well, my needs don't matter to you either. That kind of thing. Very often the same thing appears to be absent to both people if they take the time to notice. Trust is another one. You know, I don't trust that you're trying to mislead me, and the other person thinks the same thing back or something. So these things can happen. And interestingly, empathy, like really listening to another person, can convey respect. You know, it almost is implicit that there's a sort of component of respect. You have enough respect for them to be willing to listen to them, you know, and you have enough care about what they're saying to listen to it. And so it can convey care. And with trust, the fact that you are listening to them can actually, in some small way, perhaps tiny, but in some small way, slightly increase their trust or reduce their distrust of you. You know, so trust is being slowly enhanced. It's very hard to build trust sometimes, but empathy is a way that potentially you can go there. And I will say one thing because it's popping into my head about that, and that's that when in conflict, trust often gets very eroded. And when trust is eroded, even if you're sincerely trying to empathize with me and to get my experience, I can easily just think that you're playing some game because I don't trust you anymore. And so this is an interesting conundrum in a way. And what I have noticed about that is that it can... You talking about the political situation kind of brings that up, because often when people are on different sides politically, there's no trust between them at all. They don't see, you have no interest in my well-being, you know, it's I just don't believe it at all. You just want your own way, that kind of idea. And so even if you started to kind of respond to me with empathy, if I have such little trust in you, it's maybe not gonna have the power that often can happen initially. And so for you as the empathizer, it's actually nothing new that's required, actually. It's just a kind of deepening into awareness of that fact. Like, and so the way it can sound is something like, you know, if I was the one trying to empathize with you and you didn't trust me, the way it could sound would be something like, you know, I'm aware that in the past I haven't really tried to understand your point of view. Mm. And at this moment I am, and I'll tell you another thing about that, just so that we're straight with each other on this. I don't particularly expect that you're going to immediately trust that I'm really doing that. Like, I would imagine after all that's happened in the past, when I know that I haven't really tried to understand you, I can well imagine that it would be really difficult for you to trust in any way what I'm trying to do right now. And so I don't know where that leaves us exactly, other than I'm going to do the best that I can to understand where you're coming from, and I'm going to maybe do nothing else in this conversation except that, and just see where that takes us. And so there's some way in which I'm just being transparent and really trying to just expose that thing which I think is true for you, you know. And you'll either feel comfortable enough to say, yeah, well, that is true, or you'll trust me so little that you don't even want to admit to it, even if I'm getting it accurately. But there's something, again, it's just another layer of being interested in what the other side's experience is like. So.
Well, it sounds like a deeper empathy. If you're starting the empathy process, like if there's a conflict and you start empathizing, that there still will be a lot of distrust. It's like, oh, this whole time you haven't empathized with me. Now suddenly you're empathizing with me. You know, your empathy is kind of hit or miss, maybe.
Right.
And it's like, but then you're really saying that you're actually empathizing with someone, that is their experience. So you're empathizing even at a deeper level and acknowledging, I see that, you know, I haven't empathized with you in the past. That, you know, for that reason you don't have trust in my empathy, and you're just acknowledging what's going on and seeing that deeper level of what is, in a sense.
Right. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
for me, now, what I've kind of seen, in terms of a metaphor, I've seen trust as a reservoir of empathy, in a sense that if someone has empathized with me in the past, kind of consistently, it
Uh-huh.
builds up this reservoir of having experienced empathy with this person, and knowing that they will empathize in the future because of their past, having empathized in the past. And so you kind of have to build up this empathy reservoir. Anyway, that's the metaphor. I've thought about this very trust issue, and that was
Yeah.
just a metaphor I came up with, that trust is a reservoir of empathy.
Yeah. No, I like that. I mean, I think in some ways, trust. If I say I'm going to do something and do it, and when I say I'm not going to do something, I don't do it. If I just keep on repeating that, then your trust in me will increase. Um, but if every time you talk to me about something, I respond to you in a way which appears to not really be showing an awful lot of care about your experience, then your trust in me is likely to diminish. At least your trust in me being able to really see who you are, care about who you are, that kind of thing, which brings into question the whole relationship that we have, working relationship, friendship, whatever. Like, what's going on here? He doesn't even pay any attention to what's going on with me. So is there actually even a relationship here? I don't even trust that he even knows who I am to be in relationship with. So certainly I see that the presence of empathy in a working relationship or a personal relationship can totally contribute to just a sense of trust and ease in the actual relationship and in the way people are being around each other and supporting each other.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's actually a whole other a benefit of empathy, that empathy builds trust.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is. It's a huge contributing factor to trust.
It sounds like it's something you've been thinking about recently.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about it right in this moment actually, and whether or not I can find just the last little thing which was crossing my mind about it. Let's see. Something about the reservoir that you were talking about.
So you have
Oh
some
yeah, I know.
thought. Okay. Okay.
I know what I was thinking of. That there's a. I'm thinking about a friendship that I have where the form that conflict takes, if it arises, is that if one of us is upset with the other, and even if we get into name calling or other kinds of expression which are not particularly enjoyable, there is a profound basis of trust that this person loves me, cares about me, values me, likes me, I matter to them, and that's true in both directions. And a lot of that has been created out of a friendship which is based upon really paying attention to what the other person is saying over years and years. I mean, this friendship is often an ongoing conversation, and this is a conversation over years and years where each of us is really paying attention to the details of what the other one is saying or what they're experiencing. And this quality of friendship is just phenomenal, really. I mean, it's I would say perhaps beyond anything that I've ever expected from friendship, and it is really it's so steeped in what we're saying, trust and empathy, and it doesn't mean that we haven't had conflict. We've had huge conflict. There's been screaming, So I'm not trying to paint some kind of rosy picture or something. It's very real. But that reservoir of trust and that knowledge that when this friend of mine goes away from a situation where we didn't get along so well, that matters to her, and she is gonna be thinking about my experience as well as her own. And if I go away from the situation, the same would be true. And really, these days, we've got it to the point where we tend to get back to connection within 20 minutes, because both of us have that desire to understand ourselves and each other, to have empathy for ourselves and for each other. I think that's really true. So, yeah, that's the thing which was coming to mind about it.
Yeah, that story about there's an underlying trust, and you can have conflicts that happen within that context, but you know that those conflicts are not going to destroy that connection that you have, that underlying connection. And once I had looked at, had kind of explored the theme of trust, and I think it has its etymology, root words in the Germanic, like tree, and the idea is like those big oak trees, like those big solid trees that have a real solidity to them.
Right.
And that's kind of the root word of trust, and that well, maybe that empathy is the way that you build trust, knowing that the person will always empathize with you at some point, or that over time they've empathized with you so many times that they've built that solid trunk of connection. And even if there are branches that break off periodically, that that basic trunk is going to be, that solidity is going to be there.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think it's a huge part. Yeah, a huge part of building trust.